Welcome to session 7. The topic is flow nets. As we know, seepage is the percolation or slow movement of water through soil, and seepage pressure is the pressure exerted by flowing water on the soil through which it percolates. Laplace equation is useful to estimate the seepage pressure and seepage quantity. The assumptions made in the Laplace equation are: the flow is two-dimensional, water and soil are incompressible, soil is homogeneous and isotropic, the soil is fully saturated, the flow is steady, and Darcy's law is valid. The Laplace equation is given as dou square phi by dou x square plus dou square phi by dou y square equal to 0, where phi is the velocity potential. Velocity potential is a scalar function of space and time such that its derivative with respect to any direction gives the velocity in that direction. So it is written as dou phi by dou x equal to Vx, that is derivative with respect to x direction is equal to velocity in x direction, and dou phi by dou y equal to Vy, Vy is the velocity in y direction. There is another function called stream function represented with symbol xi. It is a scalar function of space and time such that its derivative with respect to any direction gives the velocity in a direction perpendicular to the original direction. So it is written as dou psi by dou x equal to minus Vy and dou psi by dou y equal to Vx. So here derivative with respect to any direction gives the velocity in the opposite direction. Then from both these equations it can be written as dou phi by dou x equal to dou psi by dou y and dou phi by dou y equal to minus dou psi by dou x. The solution of Laplace equation can be obtained by analytical methods, graphical method or experimental methods. The graphical solution gives two sets of curves known as equipotential lines and streamlines mutually orthogonal to each other. This layout is called flow net. Flow net is a combination of flow lines and equipotential lines. So what is flow line? It is the path along which the water seeps through the soil. Equipotential lines are the lines joining the points having equal total head. So along an equipotential line, the total head is always constant, while the pressure head and elevation heads will vary. Then flow channel, the space between two adjacent flow lines is called as flow channel. Field, the portion of flow channel bounded by two successive flow lines and two successive equipotential lines is called as field. Now let us see the characteristics of flow nets. Flow lines and equipotential lines intersect one another at right angles. The fields of flow net are essentially approximate squares. The quantity of seepage in each flow channel is the same, and potential drop between adjacent equipotential lines is also same. Smaller the dimensions of the field, greater will be the hydraulic gradient and velocity of flow through it. The curves at transition are smooth, being either elliptical or parabolic in shape. Flow net does not depend on permeability of soil and head causing flow. It depends only on the boundary conditions. The spacing of lines at any point in the net is inversely proportional to the hydraulic gradient and to the seepage velocity. Now let us see the applications or uses of flow nets. A flow net can be used for the determination of seepage quantity, seepage pressure, hydrostatic pressure and exit gradient. First let us see the determination of seepage quantity using a flow net. If L and B are the length and width of the field as shown in the previous figure, L is the length of the field and B is the width of the field, then delta H is the head drop through the field, that is from one potential equipotential line to another equipotential line. The potential drop is delta H. and delta Q is the discharge through flow channel. One flow channel, it is taken as delta Q. From Darcy's law, we know that delta Q equal to Ki into delta A. Then delta Q equal to K into, we can write hydraulic gradient as delta H by L. Then area, we can take width into unit thickness. If H is the total hydraulic head and ND is the total number of potential drops in the flow net, then we can write delta H equal to H by ND. Total head divided by number of potential drops. Then if we substitute this in the previous equation, we can write delta Q equal to K into H by ND into B by L. Since fields are approximate squares according to its characteristics, B is approximately equal to L, that is width of field is approximately equal to length of field. So that we can write delta Q equal to K into H by ND. This B by L will get cancelled. Then total discharge Q through complete flow net is given by number of flow channels multiplied by delta Q. That is the discharge through one flow channel multiplied by number of flow channels. So we can write Q equal to K into H into NF by ND. Then this NF represents the number of flow channels. It is not the number of flow lines. It is number of flow channels, which is equal to number of flow lines minus 1. Similarly, ND represents number of potential drops, which is equal to number of equipotential lines minus 1. The ratio NF by ND is called shape factor of a flow net. For a given flow condition, the shape factor remains same. The next one is determination of seepage pressure. The seepage pressure at any point located after n potential drops in a flow net is given by seepage pressure equal to unit weight of water multiplied by hydraulic head. Hydraulic head corresponding to that particular point in the flow net, which can be obtained by taking the total head minus number of potential drops multiplied by difference in head. Then determination of hydrostatic pressure. The uplift or hydrostatic pressure at any point located after n potential drops in a flow net is given by gamma W into HW, unit weight of water multiplied by piezometric head, which is equal to hydraulic head minus elevation head. So how to take this elevation head? Elevation head we have to take with respect to the datum, that is with respect to the downstream water level. Then determination of exit gradient. The exit gradient is the hydraulic gradient at the downstream end of the flow line, where the percolating water leaves the soil mass and emerges into the free water at downstream. So exit gradient equal to delta H divided by LE, that is average length of last field. For safety against piping, exit gradient must always be less than the critical hydraulic gradient. This we will discuss in the next chapter. Then construction of flow nets. So how to construct a flow net? That depends on the seepage problem. Seepage problems may be grouped under confined flow and unconfined flow. In the case of confined flow, all the boundaries of the flow domain are initially defined. So what are the boundaries? Upper boundary, lower boundary, left boundary and right boundary. If all the four boundaries of the flow domain are initially defined, then it is called confined flow. Whereas in unconfined flow condition, the upper boundary flow line is unknown, and this has to be located to construct the flow net. Once all the boundaries are clear, then only we can construct the flow net. Then first let us see the condition of confined flow. So in case of confined flow, all the four boundaries, that is upper, lower, left and right, are known. So upper and lower boundary lines are called as boundary flow lines. Left and right boundary lines are called as boundary equipotential lines. So we can take the concrete dam as the example. So here in case of concrete dam, all the four boundaries are clear. Upper boundary flow line and bottom boundary flow line, left boundary line and right boundary line. So all the four boundaries, that is two flow lines and two equipotential lines, are known. So how to construct the flow net? First we have to draw the dam section to some scale. Then like this. Then we have to identify the impermeable and permeable boundaries. So here what are the impermeable boundaries? AB and CD. AB and CD are permeable boundaries. Here AB and CD are permeable boundaries. BEFC. BEFC and GH are impermeable boundaries. So all the permeable boundaries have to be treated as boundary equipotential lines, and all the impermeable boundaries have to be treated as boundary flow lines. So here what are the boundary flow lines? BEFC and GH. These two are the BECH and GH. These two are the boundary flow lines, whereas AB and CD, which are permeable boundaries, are called as boundary equipotential lines. So after identifying the boundary flow lines and boundary equipotential lines, then we have to sketch the first trial flow line such that it is approximately consistent with the boundary conditions and represents a reasonable estimate of the flow path. So now it is consistent with the boundary flow lines. These two are the boundary flow lines. Note that the flow line is smooth and it should intersect the equipotential lines, including the boundary equipotential lines at right angles. So whatever the trial flow lines we are preparing, they should be consistent with the boundary flow lines, and then they should intersect the boundary equipotential lines at, these two are the boundary equipotential lines. So these trial flow lines should intersect the boundary equipotential lines at right angles approximately. Then draw a few more flow lines, say about 2 to 4. Then divide the head H by a whole number, like say about 10 or 8, something like that, and find the number of equipotential drops. So we know that number of equipotential drops ND equal to H by whatever the number we had taken, whole number we had taken, H by 10 or 8, whatever it may be. Then draw the equipotential lines between upper and lower boundary lines. So whatever the number of potential drops obtained, that plus 1 will become number of equipotential lines. So we have to draw the n number of equipotential lines in such a way that they should intersect the boundary flow lines at right angles. Then draw the equipotential lines between upper and lower boundary flow lines. Note that these equipotential lines should intersect the flow lines and boundary flow lines at right angles. Like this, the flow net is constructed. The next case is unconfined flow. So example we can take earth dam. So here, which are the boundary flow lines and which are the boundary equipotential lines? For that we should identify the impermeable and permeable boundaries. So here this is the permeable boundary and here this is the permeable boundary. So both left and right equipotential lines are obtained. So left boundary is there, right boundary is there. Then what are the impermeable boundaries? So this is the impermeable boundary. So this is the boundary flow line, bottom boundary flow line. But top boundary flow line is unknown. Here it is not given we cannot identify the impermeable layer at the top. So in case of concrete dam, this is the impermeable boundary. So we can take it as boundary flow line, top boundary flow line. But in this case, there is no top boundary flow line. It is missing. So this top boundary flow line is called phreatic line. So first we have to look at the phreatic line. Once all the four boundaries are known, then only we can construct the flow net. So how to find this top boundary flow line? This top boundary flow line is called phreatic line. So the hydrostatic pressure on the phreatic line is equal to atmospheric pressure. The phreatic line separates the saturated and unsaturated zones of an earth dam. There are two types of seepage conditions in earth dams. One is earth dam with filter and second case is earth dam without filter. So first let us take the condition of with filter. Earth dam with filter. So here there is a filter at the downstream side. So the projection of this filter is very important. The starting point of this filter is called as focus. So here let us see how to find the phreatic line first. To obtain the phreatic line, the base parabola is constructed first and then it is corrected at entry and exit points to suit the boundary conditions. Let AB be the upstream face. This AB be the upstream face and CB be the projection of AB. The CB is the projection of AB on waterline. Let CB equal to L. Locate a point D at a distance of 0.3 L from point B. Point D is the first point of base parabola. The starting point F of the filter will be the focus of the base parabola with D as center and DF as radius. This point D has to be taken as radius and DF as radius. Draw an arc to cut the waterline extension at point E. Draw a line EG which is the directrix of the base parabola. Then bisect the distance FG, the distance between focus and directrix. Bisect this distance and then locate point J. So this point is the vertex. Using the property of parabola, we can locate the intermediate points on the base parabola. Now D is the starting point of the base parabola and J is the end point of the base parabola. Then how to construct the points in between? So once we obtain the base parabola, then only we can find the phreatic line. So how to construct this parabola between the points D and J? We have to follow the rules of base parabola. What is that rule? Any point on the parabola is equidistant from the focus and directrix. So we can mark some points here and then you can take the same distance both from directrix and focus and then you can locate the intermediate points. When you join these points with a smooth curve, you will get one base parabola. So then after obtaining the base parabola, we have to correct this to meet the points B and J at right angles to get the phreatic line. So this is the base parabola like this. Now it has to be corrected at the entry and exit points, because this is the phreatic line is nothing but top boundary flow line. So what is the property of flow line? It should intersect the equipotential boundary equipotential lines at right angles. So this is the boundary equipotential line and this is the boundary equipotential line. So it has to intersect the boundary equipotential line at right angles. That is the reason this base parabola has to be corrected at entry and exit points by making it straight and approximately perpendicular to this boundary equipotential line. Then after obtaining the phreatic line, then we have to construct the flow net. So how to construct the flow net? There is another method, analytical method. So to identify the intermediate points using graphical method, it takes so much time. To reduce the time, you can use analytical method so that you will get the coordinates of different points on the base parabola. Now let us see that analytical method. So analytical solution can be designed from the graphical method if Pxy be a point on the base parabola with f as the origin, like this. P is the point. The coordinates are with respect to point F, that is focus of the base parabola. So this is x, this is y. Then from the property of parabola, it should be equidistant both from directrix and focus. So from the focus it is FQ. From the focus it is FQ, and from the focus it is PF, and from the directrix it is QG. So QG equal to PF. So QG we can write x plus s. So what is this QG? It is the distance between this point and directrix. So this QG we can write, this distance is known because by taking the focus as origin, this is represented with coordinate x. The distance between focus and directrix is called as focal distance, which is represented with symbol S. S is the focal distance, the distance between focus and directrix of the base parabola. So we can write QG equal to x plus S. Then PF, like this inclined distance, that we can find by taking the triangular property, which is equal to square root of x square plus y square. Then we can write x plus s, which is equal to square root of x square plus y square. By equating QG and PF, we can write x plus s equal to square root of x square plus y square. From this we can write s equal to square root of x square plus y square minus x. So s is the focal distance. Then at point D, x equal to t and y equal to h. At point D, if you take the coordinates with respect to the same point focus, then it is represented as t and h. Anyway, the total head is h. So we can take the coordinates as t and h. Then we can write s equal to, so here x equal to t and y equal to h. So we can write t square plus h square minus x is t. Then x plus s square, if you square this, then you can write x square plus y square. And then when you expand, x square plus s square plus 2xs equal to x square plus y square. Then from this you can write y square equal to s square plus 2xs. Then we can calculate s value from equation 1. So from this equation, anyway, because the values of t and h are known, you can measure the coordinates of point D. Those are nothing but t and h. From that you can measure the focal distance s, right? Or from the graphical solution we can find the distance between focus and directrix so that we can obtain S value. Then select X values of 2 meter, 3 meter, 4 meter, etc. in this equation, and then find the Y values using this equation. Okay, in this equation S value is known. X value you can take 2 meter, 3 meter, etc. so that you can get corresponding coordinate of Y. So knowing the X and Y values, we can plot these points on the graph, and when we join these points with a smooth curve, we will get the base parabola. Then when it is corrected at entry and exit points, we will get the phreatic line. Then after locating the phreatic line, we have to construct the flow net. So how to construct the flow net? First we have to divide the hydraulic head H, the difference of the reservoir level and the tail water, into a convenient number of equal increments. Like you can assume ND value. Then draw a series of light horizontal lines. We have estimated delta H value by taking H by some number, total head divided by total head. Suppose if it is 10 meter, 10 meter divided by, if we divide them into 10 interval, then we will get 1. So at every 1 meter you can draw light horizontal lines. We have to draw light dotted horizontal lines which will intersect the phreatic line at some points. So those points are nothing but starting points of equipotential lines. So wherever these horizontal lines are intersecting the phreatic line, from those points we can draw the phreatic lines. So initially we had to prepare the flow lines. See, top boundary flow line is clear, then bottom boundary flow line is already there. Then we can draw intermediate flow lines. So here this is the boundary equipotential line, and this is the right boundary equipotential line, left boundary equipotential line, right boundary equipotential line, because these two are the permeable boundaries. So these flow lines should intersect the boundary equipotential lines at right angles. So taking like this, like they are intersecting the boundary equipotential line at right angles. So this is the boundary equipotential line. Here also it is intersecting at right angles, such that we have to draw the lines. So these are the flow lines. Then when you extend these lines by taking the same difference delta H everywhere, delta H with equal interval, we have divided this total head into some 10 pieces or 8 to 10 pieces. Then we have drawn the light horizontal lines. So these lines will intersect this boundary flow line at some points. So wherever these lines are intersecting, from there we have to draw lines by following the flow net properties. That is, they should intersect the boundary flow lines at right angles. These are nothing but equipotential lines. So equipotential lines must intersect the boundary flow lines at right angles. So in such a way we have to draw the equipotential lines. Then determination of phreatic line in earth dams without filter. So in the previous case we discussed about the earth dams with filter. If there is no filter at the downstream end, then how to construct the flow net? So in this case also we don't know the top boundary flow line. So we have to construct the phreatic line first. The top boundary flow line is called as phreatic line. So how to construct the phreatic line? For that the procedure is different. Let the projected length of upstream and water line is L, similar to the previous case. Then take a point D at a distance of 0.3 L from point B. Then the bottom point of the downstream slope, that is point F. So here bottom point of the downstream slope is taken as F. It is the focus of the base parabola. Then by taking D as center and DF as radius, draw an arc to cut the extension of water line at point E. Then draw a vertical EG, which is the directrix. Now this is the directrix and this is the focus. Then bisect FG. Whatever the distance is there, it is called as focal distance. Bisect it so that we'll get the vertex J. Then using the parabolic property, locate the intermediate points on the base parabola. What is the property of base parabola? Any point on the base parabola is equidistant both from directrix and focus. So using that property, we can locate the intermediate points which we discussed in the previous topic. The parabola cuts the downstream face at point M. So when you draw the base parabola, it is cutting the downstream slope at point M and extends beyond the downstream face. It will extend like this. It will come out of the dam section. Then at entry, it should meet point P at right angles, and at a downstream it should meet tangentially at point N, which is at a distance of A from F. The line NF is called discharge phase. So this is called, NF is called discharge phase. So how to locate the point N? To locate the point N, a procedure is given by Casagrande. Casagrande gave the values of delta A by A plus delta A. So this is delta A is this one, the distance between points M and N, that is delta A, and the distance between N and F is A. So delta A by A plus delta A. So this ratio, the values of this ratio are given for various values of alpha. What is alpha? Slope angle of discharge phase. This is the alpha. Then measure the value of alpha from the graph and find the corresponding delta A by A plus delta A ratio. Knowing the values of A plus delta A and delta A by A plus delta A, we can calculate the value of A plus delta A. Then with the A value obtained, once we know the A value, then plot the point N and join the parabola tangentially to point N. So this base parabola, it has to be diverted to point N so that the phreatic line is obtained. After getting the phreatic line, the flow net can be constructed using the same procedure given for with filter case. Then for earth dam without filter, the discharge is given by Ka into sin square alpha. Then another topic is piping. When movement of soil particles by percolating water takes place, leading to the formation of a hole or pipe, the phenomena of piping is said to have occurred. There are two types of piping: heave piping and backward erosion piping. So what is this heave piping? When upward seepage pressure is equal to downward pressure due to submerged weight of soil at a certain level, the soil above this level becomes quick. So this quicksand phenomena we will discuss in the next session. The soil above this level of instability will be blown out by the flowing water. This phenomenon is known as heave piping. Factor of safety against heave piping equal to downward effective stress due to soil divided by upward seepage pressure. Then backward erosion piping. If the exit gradient exceeds the critical hydraulic gradient, the soil at exit becomes quick and may be removed by the flowing water. The process continues slowly with the erosion progressing towards upstream bed level, and finally it can lead to a large volume of water rushing through the pipe with subsequent failure of dam. Factor of safety against heave piping equal to critical hydraulic gradient divided by exit gradient. To prevent the piping, sheet pile walls can be provided below the structure. The provision of upstream blanket reduces the exit gradient. Provision of filters will protect the downstream face of dam by preventing piping in the body of dam. Then protective filter. A protective filter is designed to provide drainage of water from a body of soil without allowing movement of soil particles by flowing water. The materials used in filter should satisfy two conditions. First one is the voids of the filter are small enough to prevent the particles of protected soil from clogging the filter. It should not be clogged. Then the filter material should be coarse enough so that the percolating water moves easily without allowing water pressure in the filter. So it should be coarse enough to allow the water to escape from the dam section, and it should be small enough to prevent the escape of particles from the dam section. The above two conditions are satisfied if the gradation of filter material satisfied the following two conditions. What are these conditions? D15 of filter divided by D85 protected soil should be less than 4 to 5. So what is this D15? It is the particle size corresponding to 15% finer, and 85 is the particle size corresponding to 85% finer. How to obtain these values? From the sieve analysis. So from the sieve analysis, whatever the particle size distribution curve is prepared, so there we can find the particle sizes corresponding to different percentage finer. Then this ratio should be between it should be less than 4 to 5, and D15 of filter divided by D15 of protected soil, it must be greater than 4 to 5. Graded filter. A graded filter consists of layers of pervious material which permit flow of water but prevent the movement of soil particles. In a graded filter, each layer is designed considering it as a filter and preceding layer as a base material. The particle sizes of layers increase in the direction of flow. Then here it should satisfy these two conditions. D15 of filter divided by D85 of base should be less than 5, and D15 of filter divided by D15 of base should be greater than 5. To avoid segregation, filter should not contain particles of size larger than 75 mm. For proper working of filter, the filter material should not contain more than 5% fines. Seepage through anisotropic soil. The previous conditions, whatever we studied till now, those are for homogeneous soil. If there is anisotropic soil, then how to estimate the permeability? If the seepage water is flowing through two dissimilar soils having different coefficients of permeability, then the equivalent coefficient of permeability can be calculated as square root of K1 into K2. So here the flow lines and equipotential lines get deflected at the interface between two dissimilar soils when they pass from one soil to the other. This is soil 1, this is soil 2. So in this case we can find the ratio as tan theta 1 divided by tan theta 2 equal to K1 by K2. Like this we can obtain the relationship among the coefficients of permeability. So this is theta 1, this is theta 2. This is the normal to boundary. So this is the boundary and this is normal to boundary. So whatever the angles made by these two surfaces with the line normal to the boundary are taken as theta 1 and theta 2. Now let us solve some numericals. That first one is, an earth dam is built on a relatively impervious foundation with a horizontal filter under downstream slope. The permeability of the soil material is 3 into 10 to the power of minus 4 centimeter per second. The full reservoir water level is 20 meter above the downstream filter. A flow net constructed for the transformed section of the dam consists of 4 flow channels and 10 equipotential drops. Estimate the seepage loss per meter length of the dam. So here K value is given. Coefficient of permeability is given as 3 into 10 to the power of minus 4 centimeter per second. Then total head is given, which is 20 meter. Then number of equipotential drops are given as 10. The number of flow channels are given as 4. So the equation for discharge or seepage loss is given as Q equal to K into H into NF by ND. So seepage loss equal to K value is given as 3 into 10 to the power of minus 4. This is in centimeter per second. It is converted to meter per second. So here it is converted to meter per second, because here it is asked in the question that to estimate the seepage loss per meter length of the dam. So per meter length, because we are taking per meter, so here it is converted to meter per second. So it became 10 power minus 6 into H value. Total head is 20 into number of flow channels are 4, number of potential drops are 10. So it has come as 2.4 into 10 to the power of minus 5 meter cube per second per meter length of dam. Then second problem. An earth dam is built on a relatively impervious foundation with a horizontal filter under downstream slope. The horizontal and vertical permeabilities of the soil material in the dam are 2 into 10 to the power of minus 5 and 1.4 into 10 to the power of minus 5 centimeter per second. The full reservoir water level is 10 meter on upstream side. A flow net constructed for the transformed section of the dam consists of 5 flow lines and 11 equipotential lines. Estimate the seepage loss per meter length of the dam. So here two values of coefficient of permeability are given with respect to two different directions, so that we can estimate the average permeability using the equation K equal to square root of Kx into Ky. So after finding the average permeability, then we can use the same equation of seepage loss, which is equal to Kh into Nf by Nd. So here K value we have to take it as average permeability 1.67 into 10 to the power of minus 7, because we converted from centimeter per second to meter per second, into H value. H value is the total head, which is 10 meter. Then NF, number of flow channels. So this is number of flow channels, but here number of flow lines are given. So number of flow channels equal to number of flow lines minus 1. So that is 4. Then number of potential drops equal to number of equipotential lines minus 1. It is 10. So we can take 4 by 10, which is 6.69 into 10 to the power of minus 7 meter cube per second per meter length. Then third problem is a homogeneous earth dam is 10 meter high with upstream slope of 1.5 h by 1 vertical and downstream slope of 2 horizontal to 1 vertical. There is a horizontal filter 6 meter long near the toe. Head causing flow is 9 meter and the dam soil has a permeability of 3 into 10 to the power of minus 7 centimeter per second. Draw the phreatic line and calculate the seepage loss per day. Top width of the dam equal to 3 meters. So for this, first we have to construct the dam to some scale. So how to construct this? Top width is given, that is 3 meter. Then side slopes are given. So we can draw the side slopes with the given slopes. So how to construct this using the H value? So here head causing flow is 9 meter and total height is 10 meter. So we can draw like this, and then we can, using the slope values, we can draw the dam section to some scale. You can find the dimensions so that we can draw the dam section to some scale. Then we have to draw the extension of water line. On the water line we have to locate the point C, that is extension of upstream face on the water line. So say it is L. So we have to measure this value, whatever the projection is there, that we have to measure and represent with L. Then we have to locate point D at a distance of 0.3 L. So when we locate this point, it has come as 6 meter. Okay, then 0.3 times of 6, it is coming as 1.8. So from point B we have to locate point D at a distance of 1.8 meter. Then this point D is the first point of base parabola. This is the first point of base parabola. The starting point F. Then how to locate this point F? We have to draw the filter. So here length of the filter is given. It will be given to you. So based on the length of the filter, there is a horizontal filter of 6 meter long. So this 6 meter we have to take inside the earth dam. Inside the earth dam the dimension will be given to you. Outside it may be of any extent, but inside the projection is 6 meter. Then we have to draw one line for 6 meter and then we have to represent it as the focus of the base parabola. This is the starting point of filter, which has to be represented as focus of the base parabola. Then we have to take D as center and DF as radius. We have to draw an arc on the extension of water line, which will intersect the extension of water line at point E. Then we have to draw a vertical like this, which is represented as EG. This line is nothing but directrix of the base parabola. Then we have to measure the distance between focus and directrix, which is nothing but focal distance, which is coming as 2 meter. Then bisect the distance FG, this FG, to get the vertex J. Using the property of parabola, any point on the parabola is equidistant from the focus and directrix. So using that property we can locate the intermediate points on the base parabola. So here if we take 2 value, x value as 2, then we will get y value as 3.5. If you take x value as 4, you will get 4.5. Then if you take x value as 6, you will get y value as 5.3. If you take x value as 8, you will get y value as 6. Like this. Then all these points we have to join with a smooth curve, which represents the base parabola. Then we have to correct this base parabola at entry and exit points, because according to flow line property, it should intersect the boundary equipotential lines at right angles. So here this base parabola will be like this. Base parabola will start from D and end at point J. So but it has to intersect the boundary equipotential lines at right angles. So when we correct at entry and exit points, we will get the phreatic line. So after getting the phreatic line, then we can use the equation Q equal to K into S. So seepage loss equal to K into S. Coefficient of permeability multiplied by focal distance. So coefficient of permeability is given and focal distance is measured from the graph, which is 2 meter. Then we can find the seepage loss. But in the problem it is asked to estimate the seepage loss per day. So we can multiply with 60 into 60 into 24, so that we will get the seepage loss per day.